Paso, I fell in love with a Mexican girl. Nighttime would find me in Rose's Cantina. Music would play and goody new world.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Trumbore with your nightly review for Tuesday, February 19th. I put down January on my sheet here. This being taped at 4:01 p.m. Eastern Time, and the rally continues. The Dow Jones finished up about 52 points at 14,033, or about 130 some points shy of its all-time high of 14,164. S&P 500 closed at 1530, so it's 35 shy of its all-time high, 1565. Dow's up 0.4%, S&P up 0.7%, NASDAQ finished up about 0.6 to 3213. London up 1%, Paris up 1.9%, Frankfurt up 1.6%. Gold closed down a few dollars, $16.04. Oil was up 96.65, and the 10-year Treasury at 2.03%. On the energy front, gasoline prices are up 32 consecutive days, owing to refinery closures that are leading to tighter supply. Operators normally schedule maintenance this time of year, but inventories were down leading into the season due to issues like Hurricane Sandy. Plus, oil prices are in $95, $96 range as opposed to $87, $88 in November. In Europe, EU car sales, what they call registrations, fell 8.7% in January from year-ago levels, the lowest start to a year since the Euro Automobile Manufacturers Association began tracking such data in 1990. Down 18% in Italy, down 9.6% in Spain. Even in Germany, down 8.6%. Again, this is for January. France, down 15%. Ford's sales in the Euro region were down 26%. This is after Euro-wide sales in 2012 for everybody hit a 17-year low. In Italy, the big election, February 24th, 25th, final poll had Pierluigi Bersani and his union-backed Democratic Party at about 33.8%. Former Prime Minister Berlusconi at 27.8%. Ex-comedian Beppe Grillo, a joke, and it's not funny, 18.8%. And Prime Minister Mario Monti, who they say has no sex appeal, so he's pulling up the rear at 13.4%, plus he's been Mr. Austerity, and that's not real popular these days. Monti has called for a debate to discuss his austerity program so that people would understand what he's doing. But neither Bersani or Berlusconi said they would participate. Today, President Obama, fresh off 3 days of golf, which I don't begrudge him, warned Congress the people will lose their jobs if deep budget cuts are allowed to take effect next week, the March 1st sequester. Obama said $85 billion was a harmful meat cleaver approach to deficit reduction. He added, these cuts are not smart, they are not fair, they will hurt the economy, this is not an abstraction. People will lose their jobs. Obama said that while he was open to cutting back on unsuccessful or unnecessary government programs, he accused Republicans of ideological rigidity for opposing tax increases. Instead, he proposes, closing some tax loopholes to increase revenue and backed a budget plan put together by Senate Democrats last week. But the Democratic plan does not include any changes to entitlements. Republicans have supported the idea of closing some loopholes, but only if it's part of a broader overhaul of the tax code, not a way to plug spending gaps. So, also today, Alan Simpson and Erskine Bowles proposed a new plan to cut the deficit, rewriting the tax code, implementing new spending cuts. This latest $2.4 trillion Simpson-Bowles plan identifies $600 billion in spending reductions through changes to health care programs such as Medicare and Medicaid, which is $200 billion more than the White House wants. Simpson-Bowles also look at $600 billion in deficit reduction from curbing or ending a number of tax breaks, and $1.2 trillion from lower caps on discretionary spending, such as in changing the way cost of living increases are calculated for Social Security checks, as well as cuts to farm subsidies, and a big one, changes to military and civilian retirement programs. All good in my book. Speaking of books, this man, in some respects, has never gone away. New York Times had an extensive story on China's military operating one of the world's most prolific cyber espionage groups, according to cyber security firm Mandiant. It's called Unit 61398, or Comment Crew, and it is believed to have, quote, systematically stolen hundreds of terabytes of data from at least 141 organizations around the world. Officials of the Chinese embassy told the Times that hacking is illegal under Chinese law and that its government does not engage in it. For its part, Mandiant said it investigated hundreds of data breaches since 2004. Mandiant said the details it uncovered convince us that the Chinese government is aware of them. The most aggressive hacking unit was traced to a 12-story nondescript building in an area of Shanghai. The precise location where Unit 61398 of the People's Liberation Army is located. The Times reports the unit is staffed by hundreds, possibly thousands of proficient English speakers with advanced computer security and networking skills. They've hacked into 141 companies across 20 industries, 87% based in English-speaking countries. Hacked into emails and contact lists, stayed inside hacked networks for an average of 356 days, with the longest lasting 1,764 days. Here's what's most worrisome. According to Mandiant, the companies increasingly targeted are involved in the critical infrastructure of the United States, like the electrical power grid, gas lines, and waterworks, as the Times reports. Mandiant having granted the Times access to their report first. According to security researchers, one target was a company with remote access to more than 60% of oil and gas pipelines in North America. Mike Rogers, Republican chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, told the Times that Mandiant's report was, quote, completely consistent with the type of activity the Intelligence Committee has been seeing for some time. The U.S. government is taking the Chinese threat seriously, and as of last week, the government will begin supplying U.S. internet providers with information about the unique digital signatures of groups such as the company crew. But as an intelligence official told the Times, the government won't name names yet due to the huge diplomatic sensitivities. Administration officials are prepared, however, to tell China's new leadership, Mr. Xi et al., this has got to stop as it threatens the fundamental relationship between the two countries. Of course, the U.S. has hackers of its own, good ones, but our operating rules supposedly bar going after non-military purposes or stealing corporate data. Actually, knowledge of Unit 61398 goes back before Obama was elected in 2008. In response today, as I alluded to, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Hong Li said cyber attacks are anonymous and transnational, and it is hard to trace the origin of attacks, so I don't know how the findings of the report are credible. As Wall Street Journal reported, it was back in October that Defense Secretary Leon Panetta gave a speech saying China was, quote, rapidly growing its cyber capabilities. Panetta added, "In my visit to Beijing, I underscored the need to increase communication and transparency with each other so that we could avoid a misunderstanding or miscalculation in cyberspace. Akamai Technologies, which provides services to help websites speed up connections and monitors large amounts of web traffic, said in the third quarter of 2012, China was the world's #1 source of observed attack traffic, 33% of such traffic worldwide, more than double from 16% in the second quarter." That's pretty astounding. Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez returned home out of nowhere after receiving his treatment for cancer in Cuba. There was no information about why he returned, no details about whether he would actively take up the duties of office. He can't speak, after all, and he's yet to be sworn in for a new term. At a UN conference on disarmament today in New York, North Korean diplomat Yan Yang-ryong told the gathering, quote, "As the saying goes, a newborn puppy knows no fear of a tiger. South Korea's erratic behavior would only herald its final destruction." He said this at the UN. British Ambassador Joanne Adamson said such language was completely inappropriate, and it cannot be allowed that we have expressions which refer to the possible destruction of UN member states. Spanish Ambassador Javier Gil Catalina said the comment left him stupefied and appeared to be a breach of international law. Quote, "In the 30 years of my career, I've never heard anything like it, and it seems to me that we are not speaking about something that is even admissible. We are speaking about a threat of the use of force that is prohibited by Article 2.4 of the United Nations Charter." 7 French tourists have been kidnapped by terrorists in Cameroon and taken into nearby Nigeria, according to French President Hollande. They're all members of the same family, 4 children. Clearly it's the work of Boko Haram, those bastards. "I see the hand of Boko Haram in that part of Cameroon," said Holland, "and that is worrying enough for us to mobilize." It was on Sunday that Ansarut, another Islamist group, claimed the abduction of 7 foreign workers in Nigeria, Italian, British, Greek, and Lebanese workers. Plus there are I believe 8 other French citizens being held hostage in the general region. 8 armed robbers made off with a net, or an estimated 50 million in diamonds at Brussels airport on Monday evening, breaking through a fence and then into the cargo of a Swiss-bound plane, and then back out the fence. That's why we always choose cubic zirconium. The meteor that crashed near Chelyabinsk, Russia, has now been identified as being about 55 feet in diameter, making it the largest such object to hit the Earth in more than a century. And finally, the great Marty Zweig passed away at the age of 70. I had the opportunity to meet him a number of times. He was not only one of the most influential strategists in Wall Street history, certainly of his era, he was a class act. I helped market some of his closed-end funds when I was at Thompson McKinnon Securities in the 1980s. And as his partner Gene Glazer said, Marty was like a rock star. Boy, was he treated like a rock star in the brokerage offices. He was a true legend. The great worrier. I worry when I don't worry. Trend is your friend. That poster, that's October 19th. New York Post, October 19th, 1987. It was on Friday night, October 16th, on Louis Rukeyser's Wall Street Week program that Marty made the great call. You have to watch it. Just go to YouTube. Go Wall Street Week with Louis Rukeyser, October 16th, 1987. And there's Marty worrying away. He said the market was poised for a, quote, vicious decline reminiscent of 1929. And my heartfelt condolences go out to his wife, Barbara, with whom I worked professionally for a number of years. She has the greatest sense of humor of anyone I ever met in my life. That's all for tonight. I'll be back with you tomorrow, Wednesday. Remember the men and women of our armed forces. And for more stuff, go to stocksandnews.com. Take care.